You know how easy it is to make oat milk? Don't buy this shit. You've got a bad carton that's lined with whatever, emulsifiers and all kinds of stuff. You don't need to buy it. Yeah, it's a horrible idea.
All right, everyone. Welcome to this special episode. I got my guy, Darin Olien, here. Now, I called him a superfood guru. He said, no, I'm a student. But to me, he's a superfood guru. We're going to talk about all of the most important pieces when it comes to your livelihood, aging, feeling good when you're aged. Remember, I talked about longevity, but I talked about health span, feeling good in your body as you age. We're going to talk about the best foods out there for your hormones. You might have read his book, Super Life and Fatal Conveniences. You might have seen him on Netflix traveling around the world with Zac Efron. We're going to go deep into all of this. Welcome to the episode, Darin. Hey, man,
Good
listen,
to see
you got your podcast. You have some fantastic episodes. I've listened to them. One of my best friends, Dr. Sam, was on there. She was on the show. So
Dr.
now
Sam.
Dr. Sam, shout out her. Now having you on this podcast has been a while, but we finally got you on. I'm so happy to have you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like we were saying earlier, that little doggy healing crisis. So, but we're going the holistic route on that, and we'll get there.
Yeah, man. We'll talk a little bit about doggies too, man.
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend who's helped you and has been on the show.
Yes.
Look, you have such a passion for health and wellness. Your heart is in really having people feel good in their bodies. You have your own Baruka nut line. Like you are in it, okay? And you've been in it for many years. But I want to ask you, really from the get-go, because I know you're passionate about talking about hormones and how foods are disrupting our hormones. In all of your years, what have you seen? What foods out there? What's happening? Why are our hormones so disrupted right now?
Well, it's the weird elephant in the room. We are in this experiment that we're losing, and really the ultra processed foods are just it's a red flag. And then with which you're aware, the environmental world that we're living in is undercutting and mimicking and thwarting and disrupting our very delicate system. We were never meant to interact with 60 to 80,000 created chemicals every year blasted in our environment, and none of them, virtually at all, maybe 10%, are tested just linearly. 0 are tested as they interact. So it's this weird world that we are in, and it's the more sensitive our testing, the more we realize how dangerous it is. So it's an upside down kind of model, whereas they throw foods at us or supplements or everything else, and then only upon overwhelming evidence, if it's dangerous, then they'll look at it. So instead of proving safety first and then selling it to us, they don't do that. They throw these things out there, and then only if they're caught, it happens. We had a recent study that's not in the book because it just came out, that more and more diagnostic procedures are being created, some laser lights created, and they found that 240,000 bits of microplastics are on average, in every liter of water. So when you ask that question, there's thousands of smoking guns, but the problem is any one of them is not necessarily the only one or the most dangerous. It is the accumulation and the overall body burden of all of this stuff. Plus, studies are coming out showing a lot of these dangerous hormone disrupting chemicals in the food, in the ultra processed food. So not only is the food just horribly calorically dangerous for us and hyper palatable and addictive, that it also has these chemical signatures in it too. So yeah, man, it's a I wish that you and I wouldn't have to have this conversation. I wish I didn't have to write this book. But the truth is, if you're someone that's like, hey man, I'm going to eat well, I'm going to take care of myself, I'm going to work out, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do my breathing, I'm going to do some cold therapies, some heat, some all that stuff. But if you're not looking at your environment, if you're not looking at what you're putting in your mouth, both water and beverages, and what containers they're around or touching with, and you're not actively looking to detoxify yourself from this environment, which will unpack more, then it's like it's the other side of the coin, right? And so this is where it's I was compelled to need to talk about this, but there's always a solution, and so I'm very optimistic. It's just, as anything, similar to the event you're going to have, giving the opportunity for people to release, because this society, unless we step in, this society, this algorithm, this is going to grab our attention. And next thing you know, a day goes by, a week, a month, a year. Where are we and who am I now? Because I haven't given myself the time to release or to stop that which I'm habitually doing. And unless we investigate those things and learn and be the CEO of our own health, we don't realize the conflicts of interest of largely maybe a profit-centered motive that they don't have the corporations don't have the same interest of you than like your mom did, right?
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes we just defer that if it's on the shelf, it must be okay.
Yeah.
And I remember I made that analogy 10 years ago, but now I think people are becoming more aware that, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like with people like you putting this out to everyone, we're starting to bring that awareness. What are your most concerning chemicals right now that are in the environment or in our food?
I mean, I have to kind of talk about and I think the PFASs and the PFOAs and the forever chemicals, because these things are like if you talk about, which we can, makeups and things like that, they have parabens, which act as in the formulas that they keep things stable and things like that, but they're endocrine disruptors, but we do have half-lives in the body, right?
Yep.
So it does 6 to 8 hours, the body can get rid of. The problem is we just keep applying, right?
Okay.
So the body tries to turn over. But the forever chemicals, the PFASs, and the PFASs are a fluorine compound that the godfather of that was Teflon, right? And non-stick, very good at its job, heat resistant, slippery. Well, now we became aware of that, but they still just punted it to other uses. Everything from paper to the seat you're sitting on, to waterproofing, to that stain-resistant T-shirt, to that mascara that doesn't wipe off. When you see these kind of triggers, that is first of, you've divorced yourself from nature. You've now relied on some sort of chemical miracle, and that has a list of consequences. So PFAS, because it's a forever chemical, it persists in biology, in your biology, and we have no idea, other than some really strong indicators of cancer, endometriosis, breast cancer, testicular cancer, kidney cancer. Like, we have some strong indicators that these forever chemicals are sprinting you towards those types of outcomes. And I don't want to even make people, I don't want them to just think forever chemicals is a throwaway phrase. It's forever, right? And so it persists in you and in the environment. And now So 50% of Americans, their biggest exposure of PFAS, it's coming from the water, right? So it's now you're using it in your environment. It's now in the environment, and now it's coming back around to you and now infecting you through the water because it's here. It's not going away. And so now we're reinfecting ourselves with these chemicals. So I think PFAS is the scariest one because I don't know a way other than avoid the shit out of it. I don't know a way, and I don't know what we do other than just absolutely make this not usable in the world. And luckily through this work, I know of big industry, people working in industry that are creating healthy versions of this. And there's a group, I can't name their name yet, but they're using algae-based alternatives to then not have consequences, but have the performance of PFAS. So it's just lazy, and ultimately all of this stuff gets down to laziness.
Yeah.
And it's lazy, and it's centered on a very, very old model. And that old model is the GDP, the capitalistic profits over everything else, over the health and safety, of your children, of you, of me. And just to anchor the forever chemical down a little more, one that we played with back in the day is DDT, right? So we use this as pesticides, herbicides, but we banned it in 1972. Well, guess what's still here? And there were some studies done, I think it was 2018-19, where there was about 60 girls that were tested, and over 90% of them had DDT still in their blood. So this is the game we're playing. And so to your point earlier, there is no omnipresent, group that you think, well, someone had to have tested this first, and someone had to have had my best interest before I can grab it off the shelf, put it in there with this fancy box or this greenwashing idea, and then I'm going to feed it to my child. It's just a really bad idea. We need to become aware of it. And also my optimism comes by way of, we've got the numbers. We always have the numbers, right? Meaning we have the people. So your audience and you and your messages and your audience listening and the guests that they're also coming in and the audience that they're affecting. So the more we become aware of it, the more we go, no. The first thing you can do is go, okay, don't buy this, buy that. Just deal with the mascara running. It's things like that where we just need to be discerning with our voting power of our money. And that's where the optimism comes in, because this is how everything changes. By people rising up and say, hey man, no more. Let's change this stuff. And so you have to have a bit of a hard conversation. That's what these are. You're like, I don't know about you, but anything worth anything, you have to, especially like, I think of this as relationship. It's a relationship with ourselves. But you can use the analogy of a relationship with your significant other. If you guys just blow off everything and you don't really honestly have deep conversations, how successful do you think your relationship's going to be, right? You're just kind of existing, right? The majority and what they want us to probably believe is just exist and keep buying your stuff. Keep buying your fragrance-filled laundry detergent, right? That's full of harmful chemicals that they don't have to disclose because they have the loophole of it's a proprietary blend. Who's the brilliant person that came up with that stupid ass idea, right? So, that's where we just have to go. And by the way, just to not leave people hanging, if you want laundry detergent that isn't harmful, it's really easy. Buy a pail of borax that's clean. If you have whites, you can hydrogen peroxide and organic vinegar. And if you want it to smell good, some great essential oil, man. And now you've just up-leveled everything. So you haven't hurt someone's health. You've actually increased it sympathetically through the healthy benefits of, say, an essential oil without the harmful compounds of chemicals. So there's always a solution. It's just a matter of let's become aware, and then let's just take a turn and then develop a habit that's more in line with your health and less in line with a company that doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. I think we're sort of in that awareness phase right now. Over the past few years, it's been coming to the surface. Yeah. And there's like sort of the empowerment, like, wait a minute, this is, because I'm starting to see it more. Yeah. You and I were talking about this years ago. Yeah. Now it's coming to the surface and people are going, wait a minute, that's greenwashing. Yeah. This is not, look, in this label, and they're starting to read things from a more empowered eye. Yeah. And I really love that you're bringing that to the surface, because something like PFAS is nasty. It stays in your system for a very, very, it stays in nature forever. Yeah. And to think that, okay, it's in our water. Here's something we're bathing in. We're putting our children for their, daily bath or every other day. We're drinking this water. A lot of people are still drinking tap water. Yeah. So, and they're going, oh, do I really need this filter? And a lot of these over-counter filters, the cheaper, lower-end ones, they don't remove PFAS. Yeah. So it's like, okay, exactly. We really need to understand the importance of these things. And it's an inconvenience, right? Inconvenience. Yeah. It's an inconvenience, as we're saying. Like, because for me, if I go to the gym, I want to have some things that are sweat resistant, right? I want to make sure, I would just want to feel cool in my stuff, all right? But then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, like this is going against nature. We talked about that in yoga pants on this show. PFAS in yoga pants was incredible. And where do they find them the most? In the crotch area. Yeah. In the sports bra, where do they find them? In the nipples, right? Where the baby's breastfeeding. We're not even thinking about these things.
Isn't that crazy?
But these are the chemicals. You ever see Dark Waters, the movie?
Yeah. Oh,
wow, what a movie. Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah.
Everyone, viewers and listeners, go watch that if you really want to understand the implication of this chemical. Yeah. But it connected to multiple cancers, multiple chronic diseases. We're still trying to figure out how much of a harmful effect it'll have long term.
That's the problem. That's the bad experiment.
It's the bad experiment. What about the plastics now? The microplastics is the one that we were really talking about before the PFAS, but it's still here. We're talking about things like fish. We're talking things like your Starbucks cup. Mm-hmm. Where do we find microplastics, and how is it affecting our hormones?
Yeah, well, we think of plastic, right? But in order to get its origin is petroleum. And then in order to make it into, listen, plastic is an incredible advancement. It's good at its job. That's the problem. It's so good at its job, it's so cheap. So we've created this thing, plasticizers, phthalates, all of these things, liners. So all of it has this chemical soup, but it's petroleum based. So anytime your food is coming in contact with plastic, especially when there's heat and long-term exposure, you're really in a dangerous position. And plastics and what the chemicals that are used to make plastics. So one thing for sure people can take away, the spongier the plastic, the more endocrine disruptors, estrogen mimickers, phthalates are in it.
Can you say that again? Because this is important for us to understand.
The more spongy the plastic, the really cheap water bottles that you literally just go, that means there's a ton of plasticizers, phthalates, and endocrine disruptors in there, okay? It makes it malleable, okay? Also, phthalates are in makeup. It's like, again, these chemicals show up everywhere. So now your water, your food, think of hot food coming contact with plastics as well. So that's leaching, right? Tea bags, leaching. tea bags were a great invention. Used to be loose leaf. Then it was a guy who developed in the village, and they dropped him off with a little cotton, and a cotton sachet. And now they wrap it in plastic so it doesn't rip. And now you're putting tea. You're trying to get the great botanicals out of and the compounds out of, but you're also now it's in plastic, right? So those tea bags, most tea bags are lined with plastic. So you have all of this leaching, petroleums and oil and chemicals that it made to get there is mimicking, thwarting, changing your endocrine disruption, your endocrine system. So this is where we don't understand all of the ramifications of this, because these are, as you know, these are your master glands. Like, these are running your life, right? So if your body is always taking in estrogen, and you just did your yoga class, you're just drinking water, you just put your makeup on that morning, on average, a woman gets exposed to about 126 chemicals every day, and then reapplication. So your endocrine disruptors are getting hit all the time. But the thing that I get most freaked out about is because when you open up your mouth to these nanoplastics, that's where it really gets scary. Mm-hmm. And again, the more we learn about the testing, they did this new test to where usually microplastics are deemed, there's actually the size of microplastics is 5 nanometers or below, right? Their first kind of testing, even when I wrote the book, was around, okay, they're showing up in like 90,000 microbits of plastic. But now this one researcher developed using 2 beams, and they can run that through the liquid and now see nanoparticulates. So it gets more and more intense. So we're able to see more that is invisible. That's then visible through the diagnostics. And so now that's where that study showed up. It's like, wait a minute, it's not 90, it's 240,000 on average per liter of water.
Wow.
Right? So imagine you're basically taking in oil, and it's affecting your hormonal system, and that's where the wheels start coming off, right? So the body's inability to regulate itself in a variety of different ways, which we can get into, but and then you have all of these hormone disrupting. You've got the very fabric of us even moving the population forward is being threatened. So women's fertility, endometriosis, painful periods, all of that stuff is going on. At the same time, men's testosterone is dropping off the cliff. And then they're just moving the normal, right? They're just moving. That doesn't mean it's optimal. Right. So it's like this perfect storm where we're just kind of, I get frustrated sometimes when we're like, I step back and I go, we're running around like all of this is okay. Yeah. And it's not, and
it's not.
It's like, how can we have this, this chemical romance as a part of our society without the proper tests? And how, like, for me, when I got into the supplement industry, I was seeing all these claims, like, 20 years ago, I was like going, okay, you're claiming something. I knew a couple labs, so I'd test something because I was interested in the compounds of, call it moringa or maca or sashinshi or yacon, early stuff I was looking into, and una de gato and all these things, like, incredible when you look at the data of some of this stuff. And then I was like, wow, it's not even in there. Or it's in there and it's just neutered. And that's what really got me into the botanical world and into the superfood world.
Yeah.
So my, and again, kind of going off a second, my father suffered directly from multiple chemical sensitivity. So that was 30 years ago. So now I'm sprinting into this awareness also from the supplement industry going, wow, the flavoring industry, they're not disclosing because I'm testing. And then I read the bylaws of the FDA and like, oh, they're letting this be okay. So I'm like, that was like that moment 20 years ago when I was screaming at the head of the flavoring industry, because the reason I didn't know. So I was saying, hey man, I told you no flow agents, no propylene glycol. I didn't want that in there, and I keep testing it. He goes, yeah, but it's natural. And I was like, what? I feel like I'm going crazy right now. And that's when I looked at the bylaws of the FDA, and the FDA allows for certain levels of these things that I was seeing as problematic. And so it's this industry that is allowed for these things to occur, and the normal person, hasn't been informed. So to your point, now some of this stuff is coming out. Is it alarming to me? Nope. I'm happy that these studies are being done, and they're usually being done by some, chemical, like environmental working group, or campaign for safe cosmetics, or some group, water keepers, Robert Kennedy Jr. back in the day would like test the Hudson River, and it was the dirtiest river and contaminated with 3 eyes and frogs and neutered, and these are the products, man, that the industry that is killing the environment is being sold to us. And the thing that was so great, because I care about the environment, I've spent a lot of time looking at it from a big perspective. You can really say, listen, let's try to be a better steward of the planet. And then the light bulb went off. It's like, if it's harmful to you, it's harmful for the planet. How it was created, if it was a lipstick, if it was a piece of clothing that has plastics and plasticizers and elastane and no plant dyed clean anything, virtually second largest polluter on the planet are clothing. To your point, like I was actually in a lab, side note, I was in a lab in Nashville a couple weeks ago because I'm helping my buddy Jeff Garner, who's a plant-based fashion guy, and we're toxic clothing. We're doing a documentary on it. We went into a lab and we cut off a piece of fabric. We didn't tell the practitioner what we were testing, but she was testing for PFAS. And so as we're going through the test, got the glasses on, we got the coats on, and then she's talking through, and we have this solution that precipitates the fluorine gas that comes off. And then we bring it over to this agitator, and it's calculating it. I said, so what are the numbers looking like? She goes, well, it usually takes like a half an hour for all of it to precipitate out. I said, well, let's just see what shows up right now. So the state of California mandated 100 parts per million in clothes of PFAS, which is 1 part per million is too much. Again, it's a dangerous forever chemical.
Yep.
It wasn't even completed, the test. It needed longer to precipitate all of it out. So we shortened it by 1/3. So the caveat is there would have been more in it the longer we did the test. You know what the test came back as? 860 parts per million of a piece of clothing. And I looked at the researcher, and the cameras were rolling, and I looked at the researcher, and I said, wow, that's a lot. And I knew that she was paying a politically, because she was testing everybody. Yeah. And she was being very neutral. And she wasn't really answering the question, I said, what if you wore that? And she goes, yeah. You could see it on her face. As soon as it was personal, she just was, yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing.
Mm.
So she answered everything you needed to answer. So this is, dude, this is what I want to do. I want to continue to have these conversations, but I want people to be able to have these solutions also. Avoidance is really good plan, especially for these things. Avoid as much as you can. And unfortunately, with clothing, with convenient foods, these liners, the Starbucks, it's not cardboard. Cardboard would fall apart in interacting with water. Come on, especially hot water, especially hot coffee. Come on, we need to use our common sense. This isn't miracles, right? It's chemicals that are infecting you. There's plastic liners in there. So that's all chelating into the liquid and then affecting your hormonal system. And this is, again, this is the fabric of us feeling the best ever. And we're being hijacked every day. And it's not just from your Starbucks coffee. It's from your shampoo, your conditioner, your perfume, your clothing, your yoga pants. You're just trying to take care of yourself, and you just went to a hot yoga class. Now it's even worse. And the thing I'll say, because people, they need a little break, I say start with your intimates. Buy clean underwear. What I mean by that is plant-dyed, organic cotton, because it's sensitive areas and it can absorb very easily, right? Bras, underwear, men underwear. Start there, right? And try to get rid of a lot of these rayons and nylons and just completely chemicalized versions of clothes, and then azo dyes and polyesters. And the alarming thing, dude, like I was looking at all this research and I was like, an average regular t-shirt, which is the most bought piece of clothing in America, right? On average, we buy about 5 new t-shirts every year, right? One t-shirt, from growing the unconventional glyphosate-ridden pesticides, herbicides, larvicides crop to create the cotton, starting from there all the way to you buying it, you know how many chemicals it takes to make that? 8,000. 8,000. You know how many PFAS chemicals, derivatives are out there? 9,000. So it's not just PFAS. It's like, hey, okay, so now PFAS is getting out in the lexicon. Okay, change it. Just change a little tweak, and now it's PFOA. It's PFFF. It's like, just like BPA, right? People hear, or people say, okay, liners and cans, be aware of BPA. Well, then they change it to BPH. And you're like, oh, and then they make another tweak. And so then they say BPA free. And it's a complete farce. So this is the whack-a-mole that is going on. And I know it sucks that we're here, but we didn't do it. It was a movement that we were all born into. So I don't know about you, and I think probably your listeners, you want to live a great life. You want to live the kind of life that you have energy, vitality, and maybe you want to go after your dreams. But if your body is not functioning, if you are being hijacked by your hormonal system, it's hard to live the dream when you're suffering from a lot of these nebulous things, because it's accumulation, it's overall body burden, right? So the path, the meditation of this thing is, don't do everything. Some of you, if you want, go crazy, do as much as you can. But for the most part, just start implementing better choices over time. If you want to buy a new t-shirt, buy one that's 100% organic, maybe undyed, right? Or has plant dyed. And now just buy one t-shirt instead of 5 that are for $4.99.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've also been duped in the real economy. We've had subsidies that's faking the real cost of processed food, right? And that's a whole nother conversation. So we're used to getting our clothing at a certain cost, which the true cost is slave labor, toxic material for them and the environment. Like, so I know that this type of stuff can be intense, but this is the radical honesty that I like to live by. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that when you're radically honest with yourself and other people, you have the opportunity of greatness. Mm-hmm. Because you're unwilling to accept that which is not in alignment with life. It's like, that's the whole, like, I didn't want to write this freaking book. I didn't want 15 researchers and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies, because as you can imagine, every chapter is a monumental amount of work in order to understand it enough to then condense it into a chapter. And you're like, you know how many swear words are in that book? Because I'm staring at this stuff going, what? How is this possible? How is this possible that my dad suffered from just off-gassing of a t-shirt? How is that possible? A high-functioning professor was literally wiped out and had to have disability leave from his profession because of unseen consequences to chemicals that are untested. That is where I'm coming from. That's where this whole thing, because I didn't want my dad to suffer, and I don't want other people to, especially when it has nothing to do with their choice. Yeah. Because they didn't know. They were. I don't expect to go into a store and buy shampoo, conditioner, underarm deodorant, any of this stuff, dental floss, for God's sake. I don't expect it to be harmful. But guess what? Most of it is. Mm-hmm. When I realized that PFAS was in dental floss, I was so pissed.
Yeah.
But it's like a perfect storm. It slides easily between teeth. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest invention ever.
Yeah, won't tear apart.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's nylon, petroleum, and PFAS. Mm-hmm. And then it has a minty artificial fragrance.
Right. Yeah.
And you're putting that in your mouth.
You already know that liver is responsible for essential functions in the body, like flushing out toxins and harnessing nutrients. But you don't know how burdened it is. And it's burdened. And you could even be eating healthy, but it's burdened for 2 reasons. I believe there's an energetic reason too with repressed anger, but I won't go into that. The stuff that we're breathing in, the stuff we put on our skin, we don't think about how it's accumulating through our life and stressing our liver. One of my favorite liver supplements out there is Organifi's Liver Reset. It's got a potent blend of milk thistle and artichoke leaf and triphalia, 3 herbs that have been used to support liver health and have been shown to support liver health. It promotes detoxification, helps processing the vitamins and minerals and removing the excess toxins in the body, helps with bile production, right? That's how you're going to break down, emulsify fat, helps increase energy, transforming food into more readily available forms. The daily liver support is easy. When it comes to supplements, one of the go-tos that you need, aside from like a stress supplement or like a multivitamin, something for your gut, is something for your liver. I've been taking something for my liver for 10 years now. Daily liver support is easy with Organifi's blend of adaptogens inside every capsule of Liver Reset. They're convenient on-the-go capsules and can be taken any time of day. Go to www.organifishop.com/pages/DRG. The code DRG gets you 20% off. That's Organifi Shop, ORGANIFISHOP.com/pages/Dr. G. You know, thanks, Darin, for that. I felt the passion in that for real. I saw a really great post the other day. It said, just a little BPA. And then it said, just a little PFAS, just a little formaldehyde, just a little benzene. And it was just a huge list of all, because that's what we say, right? You're like, oh, well, it's just a coffee cup. Like, it's once a day. It's just a little, I work out, I sweat, I pee. But we don't realize that it's not just a coffee cup. It's not just you putting your food into a glass container. It's also the stuff that you're wearing, like we just talked about, that we don't talk about enough, actually.
Yeah.
Stuff you're breathing in, the couches, the bed, the home, the rugs.
Your molds.
The mold. Everything is this perfect storm. And I worked in oncology. I came out of school doing my residency there. I've seen thousands of cancer patients, a lot of breast cancer patients. And I used to test them all across the board for everything, including toxin.
You did.
And in my professional opinion, I think the two biggest drivers for cancer are environmental toxins and the emotional repression stuff that we were talking about. These are the two things we don't even ask about in medical centers at all. We don't even talk about those two things. Ironically, and I told you, I've seen thousands. I believe that that's what drives cancer more than anything epigenetically to change those genes.
Dude, I agree 1,000,000%. And I have a real world thing so I had a Colorado mom. So when I graduated university from Minnesota, I lived in Boulder, Colorado for 7 years. One of my spiritual mothers, when I was awakening from whatever delusion I was in my 20s, she became like this really important figure in my life. She ended up getting cancer. I was in the hospital visiting her. And because she had this wicked awareness and was one of my first teachers, right? And kind of handed me my first metaphysical textbooks and just really saw me all of a sudden doing this. She's sitting there and now I'm like fucking emotional, right? Like I'm sitting there, she's dying of cancer, and she looks at me, just her and I in the room. She goes, I know why I have cancer. Really? What? Because of my resentment that I haven't been willing to let go of my husband, who I knew. And as soon as she says it, I saw her whole, because I was living at their house. I was living in their basement. I knew their family. I'm like, oh my God, I see it.
Yeah.
I see how the resentment would come out, every little passive aggressive stuff. But she'd been carrying an event and hadn't been willing to forgive him for 20 years. That changed everything for me. I since have good holistic doctors and stuff. And I asked one guy who deals a lot with cancer, Dr. Michael Rankin, and I asked him one day, I already knew the answer. I said, how much of when you see disease states, could be emotional, just emotional. It could be whatever. He goes, well, he deals a lot with cancer, but he says, I said, how much of it is there an emotional component of any disease state? He goes, 100%. There's always, right? There's always, because you pull that string and it's always there. And it's these combinations of things, this inability for a body to be resilient when you're holding on to such emotional things. And we know so little. And I'm so glad that as I walked in here, you're literally creating a class and an opportunity and a space that doesn't exist in the kind of world we've created to allow people to stop, go deep, and acknowledge. Because, man, you do some good breath work. I took ayahuasca 23 years ago, but you do some good breath work. There's no ayahuasca that you need.
Yeah, man. These events, I've had people say that was like ayahuasca. I just did one, and someone goes, I did ayahuasca 2 weeks ago. They came to the event. They go, it's the same thing. It's crazy. And it's because that whole state is in you, right?
Yes,
Like you when you're in there, you're in there.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing that up, because amongst all of this, now we're really highlighting the two parts. And I want to get back to like this our hormonal, you said hijacked hormones. Our hormones are hijacked, and that stood with me. And there's one thing that I want to talk about, because I know I really love your passion in foods, man, and like I want to shift there because I call you the superfood guru. You call yourself the student, but man, you travel around the world finding the best things that we need to start eating.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that there's a lot of people that even like me, when I'm stressed, I want to get a little snack.
Sure.
I want to grab something.
Sure.
What are there foods right now that we're eating that are just when you're stressed? Oh, you think you're just palliating it, but it's making everything worse.
Well, that's a rabbit hole. Depending on it, we could grab each individual person and see what their
Yeah.
their kind of comfort food is, and so
Well, what foods should we avoid when we're stressed?
well, I mean,
How
you
about
can.
that?
I mean, any of the ultra processed foods, because on average, these it's not explained enough. Ultra processed foods are literally parts of foods, chemical versions, uh, stabilizers, yeast, mold, whatever it is. They're reconstructed and posing as food. Some of this is like 40 different constituents put together to do what? Make it hyper palatable. So all of these are some form of chemical process. And that's where now we're starting to see they're not just food, they're chemical factories, right? So now, listen, I've been in foods all my life. I've looked at processes of like, okay, everything's in a process, essentially. As soon as you pick a piece of fruit, it's in a process of dying. So the longer that goes with out of the soil, it's further away from its life and it's starting to go down. And even tea, right? Dried herbs, fantastic way of preserving. But then you process them through extracting the herbs through hot water, right? So there's all this process of stuff, but the things that I always go back to, and again, this is the general stuff. If you can reach out for whole foods, and if you know the farmers and you know where to go, that's the best place to go. And I would say that probably, so the avoidance is one thing. Avoid the ultra processed food, and usually processed food begets more processed food because of the training of your microbiome. So the microbiome we still know so little, but yet the things that we're finding out are so fascinating. So my good friend, microbiologist Compton Ram, who I traveled all throughout Cambodia with, and Southeast Asia, and he was just blowing my mind in terms of the microbiome. And he was like, they don't communicate the same way as cells. They communicate biophotonically, so through light, faster, more powerful, easier. So imagine your cravings. I want everyone who may have a craving this weekend to question, is it you, or is it the terrain and the environment, i.e. your microbes, that you have trained, who are then so smart that have been around billions of years before you, and even before humans, and all they want is just a little more of what you've already been given it. So it's the sugary foods, it's the whatever processed food you've been given it. You've created a terrain. And now, quote unquote, the good bacteria may have been pushed out a little more, is less inhabitable, and that other microbiome is there, and it's communicating. It wants that sugary, sweet, whatever, and it's communicating biophotonically to your brain, and you think you have the craving. You don't have the craving. Your microbes have the craving, and you're being freaking manipulated upside down, sideways by a technology that's infinitely greater than your self-control. So imagine if you take a little time similar to your process that you're going to take people through emotional release. If you take a little time, and it doesn't take that amount of time, we're talking a week of just switching patterns of eating whole food. If you have a craving, eat a date rather than your tub of ice cream, right? If you switch over, okay, I want a sugar craving. Okay, well, give it fiber and give it whole food. Give it something. And I understand. Over time, in a very short amount of time, your cravings will absolutely change. And so then your ability to shift out of that chemical-laden food and ultra-processed food, you will starve out that bad bacteria. I'm trying to keep this very simple, but it's really that. So that terrain has been trained by you. You started it, but by you shifting it, you can retrain that terrain so that you don't have those same cravings. Okay, so that's something that's really, really important. And when you do that, we all find this when we're able to stop and, do a new workout routine or whatever. When we actually do it over time and are consistent, when we're experiencing that, we realize like, oh, I feel so much better. But you don't get to know that without actually doing the work. Yeah. So it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you've trained yourself to consume certain foods. But if you're willing to shift some of that craving and don't put it in the house, don't buy it, and replace it, your cravings will absolutely shift.
Amazing.
Yeah.
When you think about it as the microbiome, right?
Yeah.
And I love how you talk about it's ancient. It's so advanced. How much of the things that we even do in our lives is dictated, maybe even outside of eating. It's like,
totally,
what's really at the control? I think about the
Ninja
Turtles, the Krang guy. He was in the belly and just totally just dictating where that.
Talk about that's a whole DMT experience right there. Right? Like. Yeah, that who knows?
Who knows? Anima Mundi, it's Valentine's Day, and I'm excited to introduce you all to Anima Mundi, one of my favorite herbal companies out there. I've been a fan of them for many years now. I love working with them. A lot of my herbs in my home are by them, and you see a lot of their products on my stories. They're devoted to making vibrant, medicinally potent remedies to honor harmony principles and ancient formulation practices. Their products contain zero fillers, zero binders, zero flow agents. One of my personal favorite ones is a Sacred Heart Kit. I got a little box and I'm utilizing the powder. I'm utilizing the tea. I'm utilizing the tinctures. It's really important to know that we are always connected to the plants around us. And Anima Mundi really holds the integrity of that. There's a compilation of, in the Sacred Heart Kit, my favorite one, there's a compilation of aphrodisiac and mood-enhancing herbs, flowers, berries, barks, known to awaken the heart. Yes, awakening the heart. When alchemized, these plants awaken deep lucidity and euphoria in the mind, and also gently nourish emotional and sexual health. To try out Anima Mundi's herbs or the Sacred Heart Kit, go to animamundiherbals.com. Use the code DRG for 15% off. That's ANIMAMUNDI herbals.com. Use the code DRG for 15% off. Check it out. Thank you, Anima Mundi. So a lot of us are stressed. Yeah. Maybe even hearing this, people are like, oh, shoot, man, this was an inconvenient truth here, right? Like this is like right here on the table. Yeah. Might have brought the stress levels.
Yeah.
Now we can go to the processed foods, but what are your favorite foods? What are the best foods to eat when we're stressed out?
Oh, man. I mean, the most consistent things you can do is bring in the adaptogenic herbs. These things I started playing with these things 20 years ago. And I asked myself a question when I was starting to formulate some stuff for some companies. And it was like, well, we're dealing with a level of stress here that we don't. And we're not utilizing some of the most ancient food ever, right? So, thank God medicinal mushrooms are starting to get out there. Hell, I named my dog Chaga. Yeah. So the king of mushrooms, it was great because after 5 years, my fire that hit my property, this isn't a adaptogenic herb or a medicinal mushroom. Well, it's fairly medicinal. I found chanterelle mushrooms.
Chanterelle, yeah.
they haven't shown up since the fire came through my property. So it was a good discovery yesterday. So medicinal mushrooms, reishi, chaga, cordyceps, even maitake, lion's mane, obviously, and you can cook with lion's mane.
Yeah.
Chaga is not edible, like it's not a mushroom you're cutting up. It's barely a mushroom. It's just a fungus coming off a birch tree, but incredible medicinal mushroom. And all of these things, and then I'll just name a few others: ashwagandha, tulsi, astragalus. Maca is certainly from an endocrine system, an adaptogenic. And Schizandra is one of my favorite traditional Chinese medicine herbs. I got to eat these get to celebrate
really
in
cool.
China at the Schizandra festival. Yeah, when you see these things and you see the reverence that they've had for thousands of years, and even something like turmeric, even though it's not really a full adaptogenic herb, we still find out so many things about it. Like, even if you're thinking about brain health, you like eat turmeric on a consistent basis. The curcumin and the turmerones turn on brain-derived neurotropic factor. Like these things, coffee fruit, brain-derived neurotropic factors. So coffee fruit, it's interesting the alchemical aspect that happens with coffee beans and fruit together turn on a huge amount of brain-derived neurotropic factors. So these are things that adaptogenic herbs, please don't get them confused with stimulation. They're not caffeine. They're not coffee. You're not taking them going, I'm feeling it necessarily. Right. These are, over time, they're building, and they're not forcing your body into a result. It's modulation. If you have an overactive immune system, it dampens it. If you need to up-level your immune system, it modulates that. So these are, and now we're talking about endocrine system again. So these are, I think, essential part of our daily routine of some form, some fashion, getting in long-term use of adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs, by definition, do no harm. Okay? Some things like rhodiola rosea or tonka ali that are good for hormones and things like that, these things need to be stopped and not used 100% of all the time. So you need to be aware, and also starting with testing first, see where your hormones are at. Yeah. You always want to know what's happening so that you're not just buying stuff. You're hearing what I'm saying and what you're saying, you're just buying everything that we just said. That's not necessarily the best approach. Yeah. You want to know where you're at. Yeah. And probably intuitively, if you're sleeping well, if you're exercising, if you have energy. But if you're dependent on coffee to wake up, if you're lethargic, if you're restless, there's certain indicators that can show up to say, like, yeah, your adrenals might be shot, your systems might be plugged up and not running well. So I'm a big fan of test. Get your hormonal panel tested. I mean, detoxification is way, way, way underutilized, right? Giving that body a pause, intermittent fasting lets autophagy happen. But as I find out, women, massively different than men. And most of the studies are all for men. And then they say this, and it's like, I'm humbly aware of how powerful the female endocrine system is. And I'm continuously learning, because most of my followers too are women. Because listen, it's not lost on me that who controls society. The overrunning of society of manipulation is coming from, certainly some males and having too much power, but the real at the household level, that's women.
Yeah.
Like they are open, they are smart, they are intelligent, and they care. And that's the reception, and they're bringing that to the husbands, and they're bringing that to the children, and so they are the gateway, man.
Yeah, 100%. The gateway. I like that
Mm-hmm.
word there. The gateway. Speaking about women. Anytime I would recommend different diets, sometimes I would recommend for some women maca, and you mentioned maca just now.
Yeah.
Now, is it me? Because I've seen some studies, but not like it's more anecdotal. It really boosts up libido, maca.
Yeah.
Is this true about one of these favorite
Yeah,
groups?
both sides, both men and women. Again, and now we can make the argument that everyone's libido is down based on the toxicology that's going on in our world. So listen, when you're healthy, you want to have sex. Not unhealthfully, but in your good relationship, you want to connect and you want to love and you want passion and So that's why the argument of adaptogenic herbs to help modulate some of the hijacking that's going on in our endocrine system. So maca does show up in multiple studies for the last 25 years, showing strong indication of endocrine modulation. Again, it's not forcing you to have, the best hormonal flow ever or be excited necessarily. That's not necessarily its job. Its job is to help regulate that which should be balanced anyway. But I look around and I'm like, I'm scared for what's going on. And when you see things like even on the men's side, you see this testosterone, you see the
sperm count,
you're going, if we're trying to destroy a population in terms of not moving it forward, just keep doing what we're doing. It's because you're looking at the very fabric of moving a population forward, and the inability to even get pregnant is just on both sides. It's just going up. So maca, yeah, man, maca
it's a great one for libido.
It's a great one.
I love that one.
And for men, modulating, again, you're talking about modulation of estrogen and testosterone. And again, it's not forcing women to have like men's testosterone.
Right.
It's regulating for them.
Right.
And for us, we naturally gain and garner more testosterone. So we obviously, in this day and age, that's why I hooked onto adaptogens 20 years ago. I was like, I'm seeing, because I asked one question: what do we require in this day and age right now? And I'm looking at society going, no, we're not eating anything that we're at 60% of the adults in this country are eating ultra processed food. Yeah. So we need, is adaptogenic herbs the answer? Well, it's a hell of a good start for getting your mood, your sleeping patterns, your stress levels. Because if you take away one thing, adaptogens and stress, they help modulate the stress on many different levels. And then you can start to, from, exercise and recovery, you got cordyceps, and even adding some maca, and even the studies around creatine, both for females and males, are fantastic. So increasing muscle mass. These things are easy hacks and additions that you can add to your life. And then once you have a little more kind of energy, it kind of starts a snowball effect too. So at the same time, you're lowering some of the ultra processed foods, some of the chemical exposures, and then increasing the nutrient density and increasing the adaptogenic herb. Just that thing alone, just those change your whole outlook on life can change at that point.
Yeah, it pulls you out of the ultra processed hole,
Oh,
right? And you see some light, and the thing is, the snowball is like you feel good in your body, and then you want to feel better, and you want to feel
100%.
better, and then you start feeling better, and you go, well,
100%.
what else can I do?
Right.
You're gaining like this vitality within you.
But it takes that one.
It does.
It takes that discipline, and it takes that. I don't know what this looks like. It's going to be a pain in the ass for a little bit because I'm breaking, comfort patterns.
Yeah.
But my God, if anyone takes away anything, follow your guidance, follow what's going on, listen. Number one of my great friends and researchers, Dr. Mohsen Hermanish, said, no one is closer to you than you. So listen from you through any advice. Do your own research, talk to your holistic doctors. Hopefully you're not getting nutritional advice from people that don't have any training. And you give it a go, man.
Yeah.
Because this is it. This is our life. What happens after, who the hell knows, but this is it. And minimize your damn exposure to chemicals that have no interest in moving life forward in a positive way. I'm sorry. That's just what's going on. And together, you share this episode. You share this information. You share it with other people and let them, even if they're skeptical, so be skeptical. Do one little Google search. You can find that study, 240,000 microbits of plastic. It was a great study done, and they explain how they tested it. They explain. So I'm just using that as the muse. It's like there's some powerful studies, but the problem is, even when I was doing this book, dude, like I couldn't even find the studies. You do a regular search these days, and you're like, I'm having to dig and dig and dig and dig. It's not. It's weird. Algorithmically, you can't find good data.
Yeah. It's hard, and sometimes I wonder why it's so hard. That's a whole nother conversation that we can have. But when I tell people who get overwhelmed, you can make a little list. You say, okay, here is my makeup.
Yep.
My shampoo, the lotions. I know that I use these. Oh man, I didn't want to look at my deodorant, but I'm going to look at this. Write a list of the personal care products and the food you're eating, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you can put alternatives. Now, there's, like you mentioned, resources. Environmental Working Group has so much information on makeup and lotions and everything we put on our body, in our body. I've done, viewers and listeners, hundreds of shows on USDA organic, what that means, heavy metals, what that means, how to find that, how to ask companies for that. This information is here. It just takes that extra oomph of like, okay, I'm ready to look at all this. Getting rid of the moisture wicking stuff. Right. Going more with the clothes. This is going to be the new topic. I feel like this year people are going to talk about clothes more. Because clothes, it's on our skin. We absorb off gas. We absorb. So we want to make sure. Okay. There was I was reading about this. They did a study on the frequency of clothes, the energetics of clothes. Polyester being the most dense energy of all the clothes, and I think cotton and wool, like the wool linen and linen, is the highest frequence. You actually feel your best in these clothes,
dude. I am wearing all industry of all nations.
I know that company very well.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
Three brothers. I love these guys. I've done a deep dive. We highlighted them in this documentary that we're doing because they're doing so good. And again, it's not easy because the systems exist already. It's not easy to do what they're doing because it's so wrong what's going on, right? So that's where it's really important to vote with our money. And even though things are more expensive, you've been duped by these cheap prices. This cheap has a massive cost.
That's the way to say it.
And to your point, I love being in clothes where I know that they are caring for the indigenous people, that the cotton is like they have a line of undyed, but it's tan because it's a high Andean cotton that is just naturally brown. It's like when you get to live in integrity and know that you're in healthy clothes, there is a thing, man. I'm like, I threw like Jeff, like, I didn't realize how gnarly clothes were. And in the last few years, I was just like the second largest polluter, because you don't realize, you can see a plastic bottle and you go, that's probably not good, right? Because you can see it and you can scrunch it. But then you realize that most of the clothes are petroleums or plastics or plasticizers or azo dyes and formaldehyde and the 8,000 chemicals, right?
Yeah.
And you're like going, whoa, man. That is just discarded, and there's no way to recycle any of that. And, you know, some of these greenwash companies are like, we recycle. I don't want recycled nylon and petroleum on me.
Right.
I don't want them.
A lot of those.
I don't want them. Like, companies every week come after me with like, hey, check out our clothes. Check out the, like, well, yeah, I don't recycle what? Yeah. Recycle bad stuff so that you can make something new from the bad stuff? Yeah. Sorry.
It's true, man.
Not interested.
True. We did the Heal Thyself merch line, and you know how many times they're like, no, this is the best. And then I'm looking at it, and it's recycled plastic, all these recycle nasties.
Yeah.
I said, only organic. They're like, well, Christian wouldn't make business. I said, only organic, right? Yeah. Because we have to live in that integrity. And the clothes thing keeps coming up for me, because it's like, we are used to buying a sweatshirt, maybe $20, $30 most, you know, but like an industry of nations, they're more expensive clothes. Yeah. It's a change in consciousness. Yeah. But I know when I wear their stuff, or any other company, I'm wearing these right here. These are organic, clean. Yeah. You just feel different. You really do. And if you're sensitive to it, you know. And there's from the energetic standpoint, I always think there's an energetic cost with the pain that's behind that which you're wearing.
Dude, 100%.
And I'm far from perfect, man. I still have Nike shoes. I still have Reebok shoes. Yeah. But we could still make changes over time. Doesn't mean you throw away your whole wardrobe and then you have two shirts to wear, you know? Yeah. So just bringing that consciousness to everyone, you know, maybe we start making changes.
Yeah, we have to. And I think, again, instead of buying, you know, 100 different articles of cheap clothes, buy 3 and be more intelligent with how to layer them and use them and take a greater responsibility of your clothes. Like, I really cherish these clothes. I really cherish because now that I've spent a lot of time with these guys, when I've really unpacked and looked at how they're doing it, I'm fully behind them. And I get it. They're more expensive, but that's a true cost. It's not like it's the same cost and they're just cranking up the cost of it to the customer. And that's not it at all. Yeah. You know, the journey, like, that's what I was said in the supplement world. It's no different, because they're working with a cotton or Bolivian alpaca that's like their pet, and they're not harming the animal as they shave it. Like, I looked into all of this stuff with them. And the journey to get that and to do it the right way, you have to create a new production that really doesn't exist. So you have to pave your own way, which is costing, right? Similar to when you have rhodiola coming from the sovereign mountains of Tibet, and you just want your rhodiola supplement, and you just want to take it and get all of the angiogenic benefits from it or whatever. The journey of that rhodiola at 27,000 feet, not really, but I've been in the mountains at 20,000 feet, 15 to 20, and they even went even further. And then finding it, bringing it down the mountain, cultivating it, creating the supplement in a way that is not losing the active compounds, so that it is high in integrity and not using solvents and hexanes and all of this other stuff that will leave all of this other residue. It is no one virtually at all is doing it well on a big scale. So we don't know the cost, because we've got cheap, crappy supplements and clothing and ultra processed food, buy a hamburger for a subsidized cost of an animal that was a sacred animal that was treated like shit, and you grind it down full of pesticides and herbicides and growth hormone, and government subsidizing that cost, so it's not a true cost, and you get to buy your McDonald's for $5.99 or whatever the hell they're charged. It's not a true cost.
It's not a true cost.
So when you get the true cost, you go, oh my God, it's so expensive. Well, don't buy as much. And don't eat as much animal foods. Eat the better quality, and then eat more plants and grow some if you can, and support your farmer. So it's like, let's support these damn companies that are doing the right thing, and I applaud this. And I spend majority of my time talking to these people so that we can get that message out.
Yeah, I love that.
You know?
I love that, and thank you for doing that work, because we need that information out there, man. And it's that shock where we go, I'm used to it being this much. Why is it this much?
Yeah.
But you keep talking about true cost, and it makes so much sense. There's an energetic cost, which we don't even know. There's an energetic cost to consuming that food.
And there's an environmental cost. And everyone talks about the environment and all that stuff. And like, how do you be a great steward? Start with your own environment. Person in the mirror. Yeah. You know, person in the mirror. What are you doing? Like, listen, I'm not one of those people that, you know, I'm not under the delusion that the electric car is going to save us. You know, the true cost of that, you look into that shit, and it's a big delusion too. Yeah. Like, there's a lot that's a whole nother rabbit hole, because a whole side of my life that I spend a lot of time on that no one knows about is clean energy tech. Massively involved with stuff. We could make an argument of, and I'll just say this and I won't continue, but we could make an argument of consciously growing the right crops and using distillation, which, by the way, started our country. Every farmer had a distillation unit of ag waste into distillation, into fuel that they could use for their tractors and equipment and everything else. They were sovereign. Okay? Homestead Act came. Lincoln enacted that. The corporations manipulated that act, took out all of the small farmers, et cetera, et cetera. But we could actually create programs of waste streams right now and better growing of crops and create ethanol and have fuel sovereignty in this country, right? Great friend of mine, permaculturist David Bloom. He has demonstrated this since the 70s. He's written books on this. You think how crazy that is. When you've been saying this stuff and it's been sent all over the world. Brazil's an amazing example of using ethanol for all of their fuel. But my point to this is, all of this stuff is a breakdown of a lazy system that only has one outcome, and that's a GDP. That's a capitalistic, it's only about the fiduciary duty is to raise profits. We should redefine fiduciary duty. The fiduciary duty should be the tax of what you're doing in the environment, because what is real wealth? Let's follow nature's principles. Nature's principles is there is no waste ever. And if you are doing something that causes waste, then you need to figure it out so that that is not a waste stream, that is an underutilized resource that you've been too lazy to understand. So these are the systems. We need to break the systems that are breaking us and then follow nature. Nature is freaking abundant. Yeah. And she always has us, right? Put one seed in the ground, what happens? A tree grows. Like pomegranate tree grows. Then there's 70 pomegranates. You crack open one, it's got 700 seeds. It's pleomorphic. It just keeps going. Why would we not, even in an economic model, why would you not want to follow nature's principles of wealth? Of course you would. You have 47, my great friend Paul Hawken wrote Regeneration. He's like, we have 47 million acres of lawn that we water for no reason other than to border our home. If you took half of it and grew food and watered it, imagine every home with a little lawn in LA growing half of it as food. You would have more food than you could possibly eat.
That's true.
Right? We have playgrounds. We have, teach kids how to grow food. Like during the pandemic, you know what a stimulus check looks like to me? What's your zip code? Where are you? Where do you live? I'm sending you a packet of seeds.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine what following nature and following the systematic approach, real pragmatic stuff. I'm not talking flippantly like utopia without grounded stuff. I'm talking about very pun intended grounded stuff here. Grow food, great organization called Food Forest Abundance. You can go there, you can send a map of your lawn, and they can send you a permaculture plan to best grow. Like it's like the solutions are there, but it's just a matter of this fatal convenience of this is what life is. Yeah, but what do you want your life to be?
Amen.
You know?
Yeah, beautiful. And it's so empowering because like we can.
Yeah.
You know, and we complain so much about so much, but like we can grow our food.
Yeah.
And this is the best. But and viewers and listeners have heard me say this for a long time. If you grow your own food, that's better than organic. Right? Grow
100%.
your own food.
100%.
Thank you for that. The last part of this, right? I want to play a little like rapid fire.
Yeah. If I can, I don't think a rapid fire exists in my world.
Yeah, I know.
We could try.
I got a list of some stuff and I want to know you say you're a student, but the superfood guru's opinion on this. Let's go with oat milk. Good or nah?
If you made it yourself, don't buy this shit. You've got a bad carton that's lined with whatever, and you've got, emulsifiers and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's a horrible idea. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's probably some better things coming on the market, but you know how easy it is to make oat milk?
Easy.
It's very easy. Buy oats, soak them, and blend them. You can strain them if you want, or just pour it in the little chunky, whatever you want. It's really easy to make.
Easy
you don't
stuff.
need to buy it.
Okay.
Like a glass container, a mason jar, and oats, and a cotton undyed shirt. Hell, you could strain it and you're done.
So oat milk on the store shelves is out.
It's out.
Okay. How about hemp seeds? Are they overrated or they're good stuff?
No. Hemp seeds are incredible. Great protein source. And the thing that stuck out for me it was also Sasha Inchi. I was looking at oils way back in the day. Sasha Inchi oil out of the Amazon and hemp oil. And it seemed that from a human perspective, omega-3, 6, and 9 are represented in hemp and Sasha Inchi oil better than almost any oils. So they're very well balanced. Again, if the seeds itself, easy addition, get the omega-3s and 6 and 9s and the good protein source. So yeah, again, like it's just be hard to tell on the quality. So you got to do your work on the quality and try to get a company that's open and transparent with how they source and their flow of how they do that and any testing that they do. If you don't test, you don't know. Yeah. And that's the naivete in this world. And that's the plausible deniability that people use. And some of it's naive in the supplement world, some of it's not. But you need to test. Because in the middle, speaking of maca, we ran into an issue. Maca is at 14,000 feet. The capital of maca is in Juanin, Peru. And we, all of a sudden, when we were testing maca, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, heavy metals showed up. Mm. And you're like, we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. You know what we found out? 9,000 unregistered, mining operations all throughout the Andes. So it's getting in the atmosphere. It's raining back down on this pristine area. Heavy metals.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
How about goji berries?
Love goji berries.
Goji berries are good.
Goji berries are good. I mean, they're nightshades. So if they have an issue with nightshades, then maybe regulate. But Ron Tea Garden's done a lot of great work with goji berries, sourced it well. I think Navitas has some good ones too, and they do a lot of good testing. Zac over at Navitas. So yeah,
I've been in touch with them. How about cacao?
Oh man, cacao is the elixir of the gods, man.
Good stuff.
Good stuff, but you have to do the heavy metal testing. And Navitas does a good job on that stuff too. Also, company, I don't get paid for this either. Company called Z Naturals. It's a good bulk herbal operation. They do a lot of good testing. You can buy like 10-pound bag of cacao powder or wafers. I'm a big fan of 100% Peruvian organic wafers. No sweet, nothing, straight up bitter, baby.
Ooh,
I
can feel it in my mouth.
Bring back the bitter.
Bring back the bitter. So it's a good company, and they sell herbs too.
Yep.
Because sometimes it's hard to find a good company where you could just buy. I want to buy bulk herbs. I want to make tea. I want to do all these.
I'll plug them both. Z Naturals and Rose Mountain Herbs are great.
I use Mountain Herbs.
Yeah. So they're great.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
5 swaps every American should make. Food swaps.
Oh, geez. What do Americans eat these days? I would swap pizza, make your own. Don't get anything for this either. Plant Strong. Do you know the Plant Strong's Rip Esselstyn? So he created a pizza kit, organic tested crust with the tomato sauce, and then you just load it up.
Ooh.
Do whatever you want, load it up so the crust is taken care of. It's healthy, it's great, and then you load it up. So that's an easy swap. I've converted people with my pizza recipes. I've converted, I've been plant-based for 15 years plus, I think, at this point, and I've converted people to incredible pizzas. I would say swapping that, and the breads, because this was the alarming thing of the ultra processed food. The ultra processed the most is like the muffins and the breads and the things like that. That's the majority of the calories of the ultra processed food. So these kind of bad use of yeasts and sugars and everything else, what would you swap that out for? Listen, there's so many great alternatives for like maybe a coconut flour bread, or I love a very slow acting, authentic yeast and sourdough. So just switch it out for that. I mean, you eat a fresh organic sourdough. Oh, come on. There's a reason it's in the Bible, for God's sakes.
Amen.
For God's sakes.
It's holy.
Yeah, it's freaking holy. Changes my life.
Three more.
I would switch out sweet for, my go-to is if you want a quick and easy, like little energy bar, switch out the energy bars and grab a date and put, my favorite is I have Barucha butter. Whoa. It'll change your freaking life, man. And it's the most nutrient-dense nut on the planet. So again, so my thing is nature provides. So I'm still getting an amazing date and butter. It blows me away. It's incredible, but it's all beneficial, right? Yeah. There's no downside. So easy kind of energy bar thing. What else?
How about oils?
Olive oil, organic. If you can find an artisan organic oil, I don't even know. I haven't met this guy yet, but Brian Johnson, I've heard some great work. The guy who's biohacking everything and testing everything. Apparently he's got some incredible olive oil. I know this girl out of Italy. She's growing her own called Shayna's Kitchen. I think she's starting to like literally growing her own. I don't know if it's widespread yet, but if you can find, I worked with a co-op in Sabina, Italy for a while, and they would co-op and growing their own olives from like some 2,000-year-old olive trees, and like incredible. Like, so find that, because most of the olive oil on the shelves are rancid, and if it's not in a dark or glass bottle, you definitely don't want that. Guaranteed, it's going to be oxidized. I think from a beverage perspective, I would say if you're addicted to like cola or sparkling water, minimize some of that stuff. It could have some detrimental effects on your digestive system over time, and maybe switch to kombucha or something like that could be a little easier for you, and not high sugar kombucha. I don't know any brands off the top of my head.
I did a whole show on sugar and kombucha, so
great.
everyone go back and listen to that. There you go.
Perfect.
We're good to go. All right, that was all 5. Man, look, I know that you have a lot to say about a lot, and we don't have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
But you got to come back.
Yeah.
And I really want to have more conversations as you get deeper in this. I'm excited for this documentary. When is that going to come out?
I don't know. We're just we're fishing around on good distribution right now.
Yeah.
But it's I think the running title is called "Let's Get Naked."
I like that
right now. So my good buddy Jeff Garner, this has been a life's work. So we really went into it. And I'm working on 2 other docuseries right now to illuminate some more stuff.
You stay busy, man. And the books?
Super Life, Tried and True, and Fatal Conveniences.
Fatal Convenience. And then the name of your podcast, and where else do we find it?
The Darin Olien Show, DarinOlien.com. I just opened my marketplace where I'm vetting companies. They can only be on there if they haven't gone through my rigorous kind of vetting process. And the only way also they can get on there is they give everyone a discount if they buy better products. So DarinOlien.com and my marketplace. And then all throughout social and everything.
Check
else.
that out, everyone, viewers and listeners. And thank you for your wisdom, man.
Mm.
The passion is easy. That we already knew. The wisdom is there. The moving forward of the people, moving of the environment, of just like a better world. I don't have children yet, but if there's leaders like you, I'm ready to have children right now.
Bam, let's do it.
I love it, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.